Hey guys, what's going on? Laying back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Black Crab. Black Crab is a Swedish action movie that tells the story of Carolyn Aid, a soldier serving as a member of a resistance faction caught in the middle of a war taking place in a post-apocalyptic world. She's assigned a mission, along with 5 other soldiers, to deliver a mysterious package to another base that could end the war. The catch involved with this mission is that the group must cross a vast body of frozen water in order to evade enemy detection, at the risk of falling through the ice itself and facing certain death. While initially deterred by this, Aid becomes motivated to see the mission through in the hopes that she'll be reunited with her daughter. This movie had me hooked at the start, but as it went along it became more difficult to take it seriously. It's still interesting to an extent, but characters tend to make silly decisions and the world is never fully expanded upon, which is a shame considering how much effort was put into how it looked. Noomi Rapace stars in the lead role as Aid, and is convincing enough in her performance. The fact that she has a daughter that she's searching for throughout the story adds an emotional element to the movie that makes it stand out a bit more from other action movies. She's also able to hold her own in the action scenes. She moves and acts like a battle-hardened soldier and doesn't let her emotions control her reactions, which makes her believable in the role of a soldier. It's also intriguing considering who she's fighting for, and in general Noomi was solid in balancing Aid's dedication and motivation for the mission. However, I find it hard to sympathize with her plight beyond a generic sense, because barely anything is known about what the relationship was like between her and her daughter, so there's nothing to go on as far as what kind of influence her daughter had. There are some flashback scenes in the movie that add a bit of insight into what the two were like before and during the war, but they're too few in number and they only last a few seconds, usually during dream sequences before Aid snaps awake and gets back to the main plot at hand, so there's never enough time given to explore the mother-daughter dynamic properly. Other characters who tag along for the mission aren't quite as developed as Aid, but they still have some degree of memorability. One that's particularly noteworthy is Nyland, who becomes the commanding officer in charge of the mission. He adds some dramatic flair to the story in that I wasn't sure what his true motivations were, but in a good way that kept me on my toes. As I already mentioned though, some of these characters make really weird decisions that pulled me out of the experience. For example, there's a sniper named Granvik who never seems bothered by 2 squad mates who died during the mission, but when another one dies afterward, he starts freaking out and waxing philosophical. I would suggest that it's because the filmmakers tried to portray some sort of deeper connection between him and the character who died, but there's no significant interaction between those two at any point, so I didn't understand why he got so up in arms over it. Some of these characters also fall victim to things that Aid experiences, yet she is able to survive them due to being the protagonist and thus having the thickest set of plot armor possible. She and another character will get shot in the same place, but she never succumbs to her injuries. She and another character will fall into ice-cold water, but she never dies from hypothermia. I hate seeing logical inconsistencies like these pop up in movies. Even though bad things happen to the protagonist and I want to root for her and see her succeed, these same things happen to other characters too, so seeing her survive things that kill others just because the plot demands it was frustrating and broke my sense of immersion. Fortunately, the movie does a better job when it comes to showing the variety of environments that are featured in its world. As tense as the group's journey across the frozen waters can be, it'd be pretty boring if that was all it was, and thankfully things are shaken up as the group travels to places like shipwrecks, abandoned homes, and snow-covered forests. All of these places look visually striking as well. A surprising amount of detail and care was put into the lighting and set design. Everything about how it looks demonstrates a cold, dark world plagued by conflict, so as far as visual aesthetics go, this movie nails it. As for the action scenes, the movie is entertaining in this regard as well. It's mostly standard fare in the form of gunfights and grenades, but it's visceral enough to get one's adrenaline pumping. I like that the enemies in this movie have a certain menace about them that makes them much more threatening, so the crew often has to find ways to get around them as opposed to fighting them directly. Something I found myself disappointed about with the enemies though, is that there's not much background behind who they are as individuals or what they're fighting for. I kept waiting for some big revelation to come out about them, but it never happened. As far as I'm concerned, they're nothing more than terrorists with ski masks. The movie's events revolve around a MacGuffin that comes in the form of the mysterious package that the group escorts across the ice, and how it can end the war. I like that it raises the story's stakes because of its presence, as the group encounters several close calls that raise suspense and threaten to endanger the mission. Once the group finds out what's inside the package though, the movie becomes another run-of-the-mill end-of-the-world scenario, complete with ethical dilemmas that the characters find themselves floundering with in terms of decision-making. And it's not that I think its messages are bad per se, there's a clear anti anti-war element associated with the story that stays consistent, and it features great story beats that serve as commentary on the effects of genocide, but in the end it's not saying anything new or presenting old points in a fresh format. Overall, Black Crab is an average action experience that has some interesting details with its world building and themes, but they aren't explored to their full potential. If you like action movies that take place in post-apocalyptic worlds and have some level of subtext behind them, you might enjoy this to a certain degree. Noomi Rapace's performance, the action scenes, and the production design are all great, but everything else about it feels half-baked. It's a perfectly fine action movie to kill some time watching with, but I found myself wanting more from it than what I got. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy its set pieces and dark presentation, or did you find it to be just another bland action adventure? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Black Crab. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the American thriller, Windfall. Bye bye!